Fear. It's the shadow that follows us everywhere, creeping into our thoughts, controlling our actions, and holding us back from the lives we know we're capable of living. But here's the thing, most people won't tell you. Fear isn't the enemy. It's not some unstoppable force you have to run from or conquer. No, fear is a mirror. It shows you where you're vulnerable, where you've built walls instead of bridges, and where you've let comfort overtake courage. And the truth is, the way we've been taught to deal with fear is all wrong. So if you're tired of letting fear call the shots, if you're ready to face it with unshakable clarity and strength, stick around. Because in this video, we're diving into an ancient, no-nonsense perspective that flips the script entirely. We're talking about Stoicism, not as some old philosophy, but as a practical, provocative way to take control of your life starting today. By the end of this video, you'll have tools, not just ideas, but actionable strategies, to not only overcome fear, but to use it as fuel for your growth. So, are you ready to stop running and start living? Let's get into it. Number 1. Fearless through fire. Expose yourself to controlled chaos. Let me ask you something. What if I told you the best way to overcome fear is to dive headfirst into it? Not recklessly, but intentionally, deliberately, and with control. Sounds counterintuitive, right? Trust me on this. It's not about being reckless or macho. It's about training your mind and body to see fear not as a threat, but as a tool. Controlled chaos, yes, chaos, is the secret ingredient. We've all been there. Maybe it's that familiar knot in your stomach before a big presentation, or the panic of trying something new while your mind screams, "What if I mess up? What if I fail?" It feels paralyzing, doesn't it? But let me tell you something. Fear feeds on avoidance. Every time you shy away from what scares you, you're giving fear a front row seat in your life. What if, instead of retreating, you invited it in and showed it who's boss? Here's the idea. Create controlled chaos in your life. By intentionally stepping into small, uncomfortable situations, you start to inoculate yourself against fear. Why does this work? Because your brain loves patterns. When you expose yourself to manageable doses of stress, your brain learns that not all chaos is a disaster. It's like going to the gym, but instead of lifting weights, you're building mental resilience. And before you roll your eyes thinking, "That sounds nice on paper," let me tell you about the time I tested this out myself. Picture this. My workplace had this dreaded weekly brainstorming session where everyone threw out ideas while the boss scrutinized every word. For months I kept my head down, contributing the bare minimum, terrified of sounding foolish. But one day I decided, enough is enough. I prepped a single idea, not perfect, just decent, and I forced myself to be the first to speak. My voice shook, my palms sweat, but guess what? The world didn't end. In fact, people liked my idea. The next week I did it again and again. Within a month, that fear transformed into a rush of confidence. I started looking forward to those meetings. Controlled chaos is a game changer because it reprograms your relationship with fear. When you expose yourself to it on your terms, whether it's speaking up in a meeting, taking a cold shower, or trying something you've avoided for years, you begin to see fear as something manageable. You don't need to eliminate it, you just need to train yourself to live with it. This is about reclaiming your courage, one deliberate act of bravery at a time. So here's the takeaway. Stop waiting for fear to fade away. It won't. Instead, meet it halfway. Dive into small doses of controlled chaos, and you'll see that fear is not the monster you thought it was. It's just a teacher in disguise, waiting for you to master the lesson. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are worth every brave step you take. Number 2. The death audit. Visualizing the worst-case scenario. Here's a thought that might make you a little uncomfortable, but bear with me. What if the key to conquering fear is imagining the absolute worst thing that could happen? Not in a passing, fleeting way, but deeply, vividly, as if you're living it. Sounds morbid, right? I get it. The idea of voluntarily diving into your darkest thoughts might seem like the last thing you'd want to do. But here's the twist. When you confront your fears at their most extreme, something remarkable happens. You take away their power. We've all been there, paralyzed by fear over something that, in hindsight, wasn't as terrifying as it seemed. Maybe it was the fear of bombing an interview, losing a relationship, or even just making a fool of yourself at a party. You know how it goes. Your mind starts spiraling. What if this goes wrong? What if I mess everything up? And suddenly, it's not just a situation, it's an existential crisis. But here's the question: how often do those worst-case scenarios actually happen? Now let's flip the script. Instead of running from those fears, what if you leaned in and gave them the full stage? This is where the death audit comes in. No, it's not about being morbid for the sake of it. It's about stripping away the unknown. When you vividly imagine the worst thing that could happen, losing your job, facing rejection, or even, yes, your own mortality, you start to see it for what it really is: a situation, not a monster. I remember the first time I tried this. I was nervous about pitching a big idea at work, convinced I'd be laughed out of the room. So I sat down and let myself imagine it in detail. The blank stares, the awkward silence, the boss shaking their head in disappointment. And you know what? By the end of it, I realized something. So what if that happened? I'd survive, I'd learn, and suddenly, the idea of pitching wasn't so terrifying anymore. Here's the beauty of the death audit. It forces you to confront the truth that most fears are just shadows. Once you face them head-on, they lose their sting. This isn't about being fearless. It's about realizing that even if your fears come true, you're stronger than you think. This is about reclaiming your mental freedom, your clarity, and your confidence. So, next time fear tightens its grip, try this. Sit with it, explore it, and imagine the worst. You'll find that the worst isn't as bad as you thought, and that's where your courage begins. Your clarity, your calm, your strength. It's all on the other side of that imagined worst-case scenario. Let the death audit remind you, life's challenges are temporary, but your resilience is permanent. Number 3. Emotion is a liar. Starve your reactions. Here's something we don't often say out loud. Emotions lie. They make mountains out of molehills, turn whispers into screams, and sometimes even convince us to act against our best interests. Think about it. How many times have you reacted in the heat of the moment, only to regret it later? Maybe you sent a snarky email, snapped at a loved one, or made a decision you knew, deep down, wasn't the smartest. Why? Because your emotions told you it was the right thing to do, right now. But here's the truth. Emotions are terrible advisors, and the best way to deal with them is to starve their power over you. We've all been there. You get a message from someone, and the tone seems off. You know the type. It's short, maybe a little cold, and your mind immediately goes, "What's their problem? Did I do something wrong? Should I reply? Maybe I shouldn't reply." And before you know it, you're spiraling. The worst part? That message probably wasn't even meant to upset you, but your emotions? They convinced you otherwise. It's exhausting, isn't it? Living at the mercy of these instant reactions. So, here's the unconventional strategy. Starve your reactions. Don't feed them with immediate responses or actions. When an emotion bubbles up, anger, anxiety, jealousy, pause. Sit with it. Let it simmer without adding any fuel. I know. That sounds almost impossible. Your brain's probably screaming, "But I need to say something. I need to do something. Trust me on this. Waiting is the most powerful thing you can do." I learned this lesson the hard way. A while back, I had a friend cancel on plans last minute with a text that read, "Can't make it. Something came up." That's it. No explanation, no apology. My gut reaction? Annoyance. I wanted to respond with something equally curt, maybe a passive-aggressive, "Thanks for letting me know." But I stopped. Instead of reacting, I set my phone down and gave myself time to breathe. 2 hours later, I got another message from them. "Sorry for being short earlier. I was dealing with a family emergency. Can we reschedule?" Imagine if I'd sent that snarky reply. I'd have turned a difficult moment for them into unnecessary tension for us both. Here's the thing. Emotions demand instant gratification. They want you to react because that's how they survive. But when you wait, when you starve them, they weaken. And in that space of stillness, logic takes over. You start seeing things clearly. You realize that not every cold message is a personal attack, not every criticism is a sign of failure, and not every uncomfortable feeling needs an immediate fix. This is about reclaiming your calm, your clarity, your sense of control. It's about refusing to let fleeting emotions dictate the course of your day or your life. So next time your emotions flare up, try this. Pause, count to 10, take a walk. Write down what you're feeling instead of acting on it. Let the moment pass, because when you starve your reactions, you starve the lies your emotions tell you. And what's left is the truth, your truth, not theirs. Number 4, the discomfort diet, voluntary hardships. What if I told you the secret to feeling more confident, less stressed, and more in control was discomfort? Yes, you heard that right. Discomfort. I know, it sounds like the last thing you'd want to invite into your life. But hear me out. What if I told you that deliberately stepping into discomfort could be the very thing that helps you build resilience, break free from fear, and unlock your true potential? Sounds strange, right? But yes, trust me on this. We've all been there. That moment when you've been faced with a decision that scares the living daylights out of you. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, trying a new hobby, or confronting someone who's been stepping on your toes. The instinct is always the same. I want to stay in my comfort zone. I don't want to deal with this. It's completely natural. But here's the catch. Staying in that cozy bubble, avoiding discomfort, is actually keeping you stuck. The truth is, comfort is a silent killer of growth, and the only way out of that rut is through discomfort. Enter the discomfort diet, a concept so powerful that it sounds almost counterintuitive. The idea is simple. Intentionally choose to do things that push you out of your comfort zone and do them regularly. It could be something small like taking cold showers, fasting for a day, or giving up one modern convenience for a week. Or maybe it's bigger, confronting a long-held fear, starting that business, or having that difficult conversation. The goal isn't to torture yourself. It's to build the mental strength needed to face any challenge that comes your way. Why does this work? Here's the logic. When you willingly step into discomfort, you train your brain to see discomfort as something normal, not a threat, but just another part of life. It's like going to the gym. At first, lifting weights feels painful, but over time, you build strength. Similarly, your mind becomes more resilient as it learns to navigate discomfort. You stop running from the hard stuff and start running toward it. Now, I know it sounds a little extreme, but the beauty of it is, it's totally within your control. You choose the level of discomfort that's right for you. Let me give you an example. A while ago, I found myself stuck in a rut. I'd become too comfortable with the same routine, the same small circle of activities, and the same predictable outcomes. So, I decided to challenge myself by signing up for a class I'd been putting off for years. public speaking. Every Monday for 6 weeks, I stood in front of a group of strangers and delivered speeches, feeling my heart race and my hands sweat. At first, it was painful, but by the end of the course, I realized something. I was no longer afraid of being uncomfortable. In fact, I started to crave those uncomfortable moments because they taught me so much about myself. This isn't just about taking cold showers or doing something weird for the sake of it. This is about reclaiming your strength, your peace, and your dignity. It's about learning that discomfort doesn't have to break you. It can build you. It's about knowing that every time you push through a challenge, you become stronger, more capable, and more confident. We all have that tendency to back down when things get tough. Maybe we over-explain ourselves, apologize too much, or avoid confrontation. But imagine if you didn't have to do that anymore. Imagine if discomfort wasn't a threat, but just another opportunity to level up. So, here's the final takeaway. If you want to grow, you need to make discomfort your ally. Step into the hard stuff. Choose it. Seek it out. The more you do, the more powerful and unstoppable you become. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are on the other side of discomfort. It's time to start living like you believe that. Number 5. Radical responsibility. Own your fate entirely. What if I told you that everything you're experiencing right now, the good, the bad, and everything in between, is entirely your responsibility? Yes, you heard me right. You are 100% responsible for your fate. Now, I know that sounds like a heavy statement, and you might be thinking, wait, what about things beyond my control? What about luck or circumstances? Trust me, I get it. It's a hard pill to swallow. But hear me out. Owning your fate doesn't mean blaming yourself for every little thing. It means taking full responsibility for how you respond to what life throws your way. It's about stepping into the driver's seat of your life, even when the road's bumpy and the map's missing. We've all been there, haven't we? You get caught in that cycle of blaming others or circumstances for where you are in life. Maybe it's the job you don't like, the relationship that's gone sour, or that feeling of I'll never get ahead. You know the type, the one where you're constantly saying, if only this hadn't happened to me, or I'd be so much further if so-and-so hadn't done this. It's natural, right? But here's the thing, living in that space only keeps you stuck. The truth is, while we can't control everything, we can control how we choose to respond. So, here's the radical part. Stop playing the victim. Own your fate entirely. This doesn't mean ignoring outside forces, but instead shifting the narrative. Instead of saying, I'm stuck because of X, say, what can I do today to change my situation, regardless of X? It's a mindset shift, a commitment to take full ownership of how we show up in the world. It's about realizing that no one can determine your success or happiness unless you give them that power. Yes, life is unpredictable, but you get to decide how you navigate it. Let me give you a real example. A few years ago, I was at a job that wasn't a good fit. The hours were long, the work felt pointless, and I was constantly complaining. I blamed the company, the manager, the lack of opportunities. But one day, I got fed up. I realized that I had been letting external circumstances control my mindset and energy, so I made a choice. I stopped complaining. I took full responsibility for my situation. Instead of waiting for a promotion, I started learning new skills on my own. I networked with people outside the company. And within 6 months, not only had my mindset shifted, but so had my career. I didn't wait for things to change. I made the change. This is about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity. It's about realizing that no matter what's going on around you, you hold the key to how you respond. It's easy to feel like life is happening to you, but in reality, life is happening with you. When you stop giving away your power, you realize that the true path to freedom is taking full ownership of your choices, your actions, and your future. So, here's the final thought. Stop waiting for someone else to change your life. You are the one with the power to transform everything. Radical responsibility isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to step up and take control, no matter what life throws at you. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are yours to claim. It's time to own your fate entirely. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope this video gave you some fresh perspectives and practical tools to tackle fear head-on and start reclaiming your power. If you found value in what we discussed today, please take a moment to like this video. It helps more than you know. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more insights and strategies on living a stronger, more intentional life. If you know someone who might benefit from this message, share it with them. Let's spread the idea that fear doesn't have to define us. It can fuel us. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's a fear you're working on overcoming, or what's a Stoic practice that's helped you in the past? Your experiences and thoughts could inspire someone else watching this. Remember, fear is only as powerful as the hold you allow it to have. By facing it with clarity and courage, you can turn it into one of your greatest teachers. Keep stepping forward, one bold choice at a time. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and keep growing. You've got this.